Jim and Jane are 60 and 59. They have $575K in their IRA account. They plan to retire at 64 and 63 and immediately collect Social Security. Jim doesn't think Social Security will last. He thinks it's going away, so he wants his money. If Jane lives to 90 and Jim to 85, and they collect at 64 and 63, they've made a $498,000 mistake. I'll show you my analysis, but first, I would love to introduce myself. I am Daryl Rosen. I'm an independent fiduciary wealth advisor, and I'm based right outside of Chicago. If you like my videos, please make sure to subscribe or give me a thumbs up. If you have comments or questions, feel free to put them in the comments. I've also listed several resources in the description below, so please take a look. So let's break this down. First, we have to talk about life expectancy. If they both make it to 65, according to life expectancy calculators and the Census Bureau, there is about a 25% chance that one of them will live into their 90s. For this video, which is loosely based on some of our clients, we will assume that Jim passes away first. According to the National Institute of Health, men often pass away before their wives. In fact, the probability that the wife will be the surviving spouse is about 63%. And if she is their surviving spouse, her life expectancy as a widow is about 12.5 years. We're assuming that Jane lives another 5 years. By the way, if the husband is the surviving spouse, his survivor life expectancy is 9.5 years. One more thing. Jim and Jane want to spend $4,000 net of taxes and healthcare in retirement. Here's a quick little nugget for you. If you don't include healthcare, you are fooling yourself. Just look at these costs. These numbers flow into my system from Medicare billings, so the approximations are pretty good. We have Part B, Part D, Medigap, and out-of-pocket costs. You can't see it here, but this analysis also includes Part A premiums, which typically are deducted right out of your Social Security payments. Taxes are also calculated right into the plan. By collecting early, they have made a $498,000 mistake. They are projected to have zero at the end of the plan when Jane passes away and will be forced to spend less in retirement to make ends meet. On the other hand, if they take Social Security at 70 and 69, their ending balance will be $366,000. The difference between 498, which is the mistake, and 366 is the additional spending that their plan will support during retirement. That means a $4,000 per month spending number plus inflation will work. So let's go into Income Conductor, the software I use, and take a look at this. Jim and Jane retirement age is 64 and 63. And you can see that I did longevity 85 for Jim and 90 for Jane. They have accounts with a value of $575,000. You can see here that the expenses are $4,000 a month. That's what I came up with. You can also see healthcare, which I referenced. These are some pretty big numbers. So let's go to Social Security, and you can see I have put $3,000 a month in as Jim's primary insurance amount. I'm going to leave Jane's empty because she's going to collect the spousal benefit. You can see here that I've done the custom age, 64 for Jim, 63. And that's going to lead us to $1.6 million pre-tax of Social Security earnings. See, if we do the maximum benefit, there's quite a bit more money. Let's come up here. I'm going to move this out of the way. Let's get rid of this. And you can see what I'm referencing here. There's unfunded spending of $117,000, which means they're going to have to tighten their belt. And the ending balance is zero. So I'm going to come back down here and I'm going to change this to the maximum amount. I'm going to save it. But now you can see the ending balance is $366,000 and there's no funding shortfall in the plan. So that's where I'm getting my numbers from. $366,000 plus the shortfall comes out to about $498,000.
Hey everyone, it's Erin Kennedy with a quick message. We've created a free training video to teach you how to increase your spending ability, reduce downside risk, and make sure your money lasts as long as you do. You can click the link in the description right where it says free training. And of course, if you like what we're doing, please like and subscribe.
Let's not forget something. By collecting at 64, Jim is locking in Jane's benefit as well. Let's say Jane was at home raising the children and doesn't have a substantial work record. So her benefit will be the greater of the benefits derived from her work record or 50% of Jim's full retirement age benefit, whichever is bigger. So by collecting at 64, Jim is locking in a smaller benefit for both of them. You've probably read that each year you wait to collect your Social Security benefit, it grows by about 8%. Plus, benefits are regularly increased for inflation. These are guarantees. There's something else happening here that is less apparent but equally as important. When you wait until 70 to collect Social Security, assuming they live to 90 and 85 in this example, you get a lot more money from Social Security. And there's more. As I mentioned, Jim and Jane have $575K in retirement savings in their IRA accounts. A big part of the reason why their ending balance is higher when they claim later is because they're able to invest differently. Here's what I mean. If we break their retirement into time buckets, we can push more money out into the future. Presumably, money that we won't need for many, many years will grow at a higher rate of return. And as I always say, you don't need all your money on day one. Many investing models are based on asset allocation. Your strategy is simply to determine the appropriate mix of stocks, bonds, or alternative investments for your risk appetite. But consider this question. If you aren't going to need all your money on the first day of retirement, then why do you treat all your money the same way? With a time-weighted segmentation strategy, your retirement is divided into separate segments, each with a different investment objective. This allows your long-term money to stay invested in the market for potential growth while not taking risk with money you need to pay your bills. You can see that as you move from left to right on the chart, you're moving into your retirement one segment at a time. Notice that as you move from left to right, you should be aiming for higher returns. That means your investment strategy should be more aggressive for money not needed for a long time, as risk generally leads to higher returns. If Jim and Jane take Social Security at 70, they will get more money into the outermost buckets where their money will grow more effectively at higher rates of return. So here's what I mean when I talk about segmenting. You can see that we have divided the retirement into different segments based upon time horizon. And out here in segment 6, which would be near the end of life, and the surplus, which would traditionally be the money that they essentially wouldn't need based on their plan, money that would be earmarked for their beneficiaries. These columns are blank because we're collecting at 64 and 63. What that means is that we're placing more pressure on the front part of the retirement. Now I'm going to come down here in the configure claim strategy, and I'm going to change this to the max benefit again. So now you can see what's happened. There's more pressure in the first 5 years of retirement. This number increased a little bit, but we can handle that. Certainly with the risk-free rate so high, around 5% still, we should not be taking risk with any money we need to satisfy the objectives of this first segment. But come out here. If we come out here, this number is about 15,000 in segment 6. You might recall that it was empty. And over here, we're getting about $85,000 into the surplus bucket. What we can see here is, I'm just going to change this a little bit to the chart. You can see 15,000 here and 85,000 here. Presumably, we're pushing money out where we're going to be able to achieve a higher rate of return on that money. With the claiming at 64 and 63, more pressure up here, lower rates of return. When we change that to where we're going to be bringing in more money based on Social Security, I already showed you that. We're also going to be able to move more money out into these areas, which are later in life, which can be invested in equities where we can take more risk. Well, they need a strong constitution. Yes, but if they can look at things this way, they will be better off. We know that markets recover given time. Look at what happened after the dot-com crash in the early 2000s. The market came back. Look what happened after the Great Recession. The market came back. Look what happened after COVID 2020. The market came back. Bad markets don't ruin your plans. Bad decisions ruin your plans. Before I conclude this video, let's talk about how people react to information like this, or the suggestion of when to take Social Security. I mentioned earlier this case is loosely based upon some clients I have. Well, the man said, if I die, expenses will decrease. And this can actually be true. According to the Government Accountability Office, on average, women experience a 50% decrease in income upon becoming widowed and only a 20% decrease in expenses. Sure, basic living expenses will decrease, as will medical for someone no longer alive. But that decrease is muted by 3 factors. Number 1, fixed expenses don't disappear. My favorite first wife, Jill's father, just passed away. Jill's mom still has the house to contend with. Variable expenses like food and medical go away, but so does some of the money from Social Security when someone passes. Number 2, when someone passes away, the survivor's tax status changes. In the year after, the widow begins filing as a single taxpayer, and their taxes go up. If the deceased had an IRA and was taking required minimum distributions, the widow would continue that, but at a higher rate. And number 3 has to do with healthcare. When Jim was alive, if he needed help, Jane was there to help him. Now that he's gone, as Jane ages, who's going to help her? Absent a long-term care policy, cost savings from Jim no longer being around might be outweighed by the costs inherent in taking care of Jane. Another reply here is that I want to take my Social Security as early as possible, and even if I don't need the money, I'm just going to invest it. Sure, that's one way to do it, but I believe that income is very important. More income leads to more comfort. I realize that the rates of return I use in my plans are just estimates. Taking Social Security at 62 and investing what you don't need leads to more estimating. I want less estimating. There are also some strategies that include the spouse taking Social Security on her record and then switching to the spousal benefit later, but that's a subject for another day. Okay, that's enough for this video if you're still watching. Please always be aware that the Social Security claiming decision is not made in a vacuum. Every action has a consequence. If you need help putting your plan together, feel free to reach out, and thanks for watching.